Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning and today I'm joined by my co-host Pearse McLaughlin. Hello Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's English Premier League results, Scottish Premier League results. We will also be giving our reaction to the Scottish League Cup final between Celtic and Rangers. And then at the end of the podcast, we will discuss Scotland's World Cup draw for the World Cup in 2026. So, as always, we'll start off with the English Premier League results. So, on Saturday, the 14th of December, the results finished Liverpool 2, Fulham 2, Newcastle 4, Leicester 0, Wolves 1, Ipswich 2, Arsenal 0, Everton 0, Nottingham Forest 2, Aston Villa 1. And then on Sunday, the 15th of December, the results finished Brighton 1, Crystal Palace 3, Man City 1, Man United 2, Chelsea 2, Brentford 1, Southampton 0, Tottenham 5. And then yesterday, which was Monday, the 16th of December, there was one last match, which finished Bournemouth 1, West Ham United 1. So, before we go into the results, feel it's important to start off with the two managerial sackings that happened in English Premier League over the weekend. So the first one on Sunday, the 15th of December, Wolves announced that Gary O'Neill had been sacked as manager of Wolves. That was after the defeat on Saturday against Ipswich, which finished 2-1 to Ipswich. So, firstly, Pearse, what's your thoughts on Gary O'Neill being sacked as Wolves manager?
I think it had been coming, although I think he'd done a terrific job at Wolves last season. And obviously losing their best player from last season in Pedro Neto to Chelsea. And Hwang Hee-chan's been injured for large spells of this season. So I think they've struggled for goals, and defensively they've not been solid at all. And that's just a recipe for disaster. But I think he's a really good manager, but I think he hasn't really been backed in terms of investment in the squad. But with the recent results, you kind of seen it was coming. And getting beat at home by Ipswich was just the final nail in the coffin for him. Because he was also been rumoured the last couple of weeks that his job was in jeopardy. So no, I wasn't really surprised at that. But just like to say, he did a really good job last season, and he's had a poor start this season. But no, I think he's still a good manager, and I'm sure he'll get another job quite quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was kind of written in the wall for him, so to speak. I think he kind of knew that it was just a matter of when, not if. They've had a really bad start to the season. They had a really tough start to the season in terms of fixtures. So people kind of let them off lightly a little bit because of how hard a start they had. But it's just kind of fallen apart the last few weeks. You're seeing a lot of bad results, and then most notably for me, like I'm seeing, like at the end of matches, they're fighting with the opposition team. They're fighting with themselves. There was an incident. So last week, Wolves were defeated against West Ham, and then at the end of the match, the captain Mario Lemina was really unhappy. Was kind of confrontational with the West Ham players, and then I think it was it was a Wolves assistant coach that then they locked head to head, so it just looked a complete mess. And then the captaincy got taken off him. It got given to Nelson Semedo, and then on Saturday just there, which was Gary O'Neill's last match, they got beat in the last minute, and then again after the match there was fights. I think Ipswich security guard was involved in it. It was a Martinez Cunha was kind of involved in that stuff as well. So it just all felt like it was falling apart for him. He had no control really, and yeah, I wasn't surprised to be honest when I heard that he had been sacked. And they are in a really really tough position right now. So it's going to be interesting to see who they appoint, and then how they get out of this because they've got a lot of work to do in the league. So Gary O'Neill sacked as Wolves manager, and then we also found out on the same day. So this was at night that straight after the Southampton versus Tottenham match, it was announced by Southampton that they had sacked Russell Martin, and that was after the 5-0 defeat against Tottenham on Sunday. So it was really quick after the match, Pearse. What was your thoughts?
Again, similar to the Wolves had a poor start to the season. Newly promoted side, but different for Wolves. Newly promoted side, and he's trying to keep that expansive attacking football that he did in the Championship with Southampton, which worked really well. But I think you've seen it last year with Burnley. They came up and they tried to play that way, and it just didn't work at all. And they were eventually relegated. And I think Southampton could be on the same trajectory. And at the weekend, to get beat 5-0, it could have been a lot more. They were so open, and Tottenham just picked them off and were clinical. And this is a Tottenham side that has been also free scoring, but also free. They've just been very open. Their cells are very open at the back. Tottenham and up and down the form, and usually they lose against the smaller sides. But they won 5-0, and it was a very convincing performance. And you seen the boos ringing around the stadium, and it was not a pretty sight for the manager. Considering they were 5-0 down at half time. And I think it was damage limitation in the second half and they just shut up shop. But it was 5 going on 10, 15. It was really, really poor performance. And for me, I think at this level, he probably cannot play that way with the players he's got at his disposal. It's probably best suited to play more pragmatic and hit the counter. But if you're going to play that way, you need to have the personnel to do it. And I just don't think it was ever going to work out in the Premier League for Russell Martin. But I think he's a good manager, maybe a Championship level manager at the moment, because you can play that way in the Championship. But I think Premier League was just a little bit a step too far for him.
I totally agree with the last bit you just said there. Yeah, I'm the same, to be fair. I was quite sad about it, to be honest, because I just like the way, I like the way he plays football. His teams, this Southampton team last season in the Championship played amazing football. He stuck to his principles. That got them promoted. This season, I totally agree that playing the same way wasn't going to end well for him, and that was to be the case. Because when you look at that Southampton team, a lot of the players in that team are Championship players, to be fair. And trying to get them to play that style of football with Championship players in the Premier League is going to be a massive task, because we are starting to see, especially the last couple of years, that the Championship and the Premier League, the jump is massive. So I mean, he was already, Southampton haven't had a good start to the season. They're struggling to score goals, conceding. This season they've conceded so many ridiculous goals. To be fair, defensively they've just been terrible. And then on Sunday it was just a final nail in the coffin, because I mean, going in at half time 5-0 down, I mean, it just kind of says it all, to be fair. It was that bad that Russell Martin had already gone to the dressing room, so he hadn't even seen Tottenham's fifth goal. He was even there with the fifth goal. I mean, it was just when I saw that result, I just kind of knew that I think it's going to be his time up, and it did. That was to be the case. So that's Southampton. And I agree with you with Russell Martin. I think at the moment he is a Championship level manager. He's still really young as well, so hopefully he does get another job, because I think, the way he manages his style of football I really like. So hopefully he gets another job really soon, and keeps developing, and hopefully I think he will become a top manager in the future. But just lastly on Southampton, I think in terms of their manager, I think they really need someone that's experienced in the Premier League, that's a more defensive minded manager, like someone like David Moyes. I think that'd be quite a smart appointment if they manage to get him in. Don't think that will happen, but yeah, again, same as Wolves. Whoever takes over the job at Southampton's got a lot of work to do in the league, because they're in big trouble, and need to start picking up points quickly. So that's the two managerial sackings we've just discussed out the way. What was your standout match, Pearse, from the weekend? I think I know mine.
I was going to say the Tottenham Southampton, to be honest.
Well, you can say that one if you want. I mean,
But no, just because what I witnessed in terms of the style of football.
mhm.
And obviously, Ange Postecoglou himself is from the Tottenham supporters. He's been under a lot of pressure recently, um, in terms of results in Europe and then obviously domestically in the Premier League and in the cup competitions. That he's been very inconsistent this season. Although he's still playing really nice attacking football. It's just defensively that they keep shooting themselves in the foot in terms of stupid mistakes at the back and giving away soft penalties and just rash challenges and getting caught out and the counter very easily. But I thought, although it was Southampton who are rock bottom and Pearse McLaughlin did lose a job, which you never want to see. But in terms of the actual attacking football, it was very fluid. It was very clinical in terms of Madison, Kulusevski, and Son. I thought the three of them were the architects, and the Southampton couldn't deal with them, to be honest. And for me, that was why that was a standout fixture, because of how attacking and how free flowing the football was, and how nice it was to see, especially for a manager that's under pressure at the moment as well. So, for me, I think Tottenham should stick with him, Ange Postecoglou, because I think he's a good manager, and I think he's just going. You're going to get that inconsistency with Tottenham. I think some of the players that have been there for previous regimes, you still need to keep developing that squad and changing from that defensive minded football to that attacking football. And I think for me, that was my standard performance in the weekend.
Yeah, it's a good choice. For me, it's got to be the Man City 1, Man United 2. A crazy, crazy end to the game. You know, um, I mean, I didn't watch the game, but from what I heard, apparently it was a poor level game. You know, two teams that are not in the greatest moment. So apparently it wasn't a good match to watch. So Man City did take the lead in that game with Gavardiol, and I think the story of it was Man City were just desperate to try and hold out to try and get that 1-0 victory. And then I saw the penalty. I mean, they gave away the most stupidest penalty. I think it was, yeah, it was Matheus Nunes gave the ball away. He tried to pass it back to the keeper. It got intercepted, and then he ran back to try and win it back, and he just put in a really clumsy challenge. I think it was Diallo. He fouled, and it was just a stupid penalty giveaway. So it became 1-1, and then literally seconds or minutes after, Lissandro Martinez uh, kicks the ball up the field, and then Amad Diallo gets onto it, and he lobs the keeper. No, sorry, he takes it around the keeper, and then he kind of lobs it into the back of the net. It was what I got was when you see it from the way it comes from behind him and his control with the ball. It was a fantastic goal. So an absolutely brilliant victory for Man United, and for Man City. I mean, it's getting beyond a joke now. I mean, that's 1-1-11. I mean, it's crazy times for them, really. I mean, I can't believe the drop off. I mean, it's crazy the drop off that they've had this season. I mean, I know Rodri's a big miss. I get that, but it's so much more than Rodri now. I mean, it's just ridiculous how so many players are off form. I mean, I saw, was it Jack Grealish? He hasn't even scored a goal in 2024.
Uh,
I mean, he cost. He cost about 80, 90 million, something like that. I think he was even more than that. You've got players like Kevin De Bruyne, who looks nowhere near. Gundogan, for me, his legs have gone. I mean, Haaland's the top scorer, and the second top scorer is Gavardio, and he's a centre back. I mean, it just says it all. I mean, as big. I mean, we already know that. I think this January coming or next summer, I think Pep Guardiola's going to have to get the checkbook out, because that team is nowhere near it anymore, in my opinion.
can I
I
ask
mean,
you
they've got a
something?
lot.
Do you
On you
think
go.
Man City will even make the top six?
At the moment, no. I mean, I think everyone's expecting them to somehow they'll get it together, and they're definitely not win the title. Like, that's long gone for me now. No chance. Like, that's just definitely not happening. I think they might at the moment, no, but I still do think that they'll work it out some way, and they'll manage to get back on a run, and maybe cling, and they might just be able to make top four. I don't know, but it's definitely going to revolve around January as well for me. I think they have to go into January window and sign players, especially midfielders, in my opinion, because I think midfield they look terrible. They just look like they've got no legs in midfield anymore. Um,
But
and
you say defence, but they've also got issues up front. They're not scoring enough goals.
yeah, and I was thinking about that. Like, I think it was a bad mistake to let Julian Alvarez leave in the summer. I think that one's come to bite them. Because, you know, they're just kind of relying on Haaland and, you know, he's not even scoring at the moment. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many issues with Man City at the moment. It's quite crazy. I never expected this, to be honest. I mean, 1-1-11 is just mental. It really is. But that's the reality. Um, and what a win for Man United. So yeah, that was my standout match from the
Do
weekend.
you think, Tom, that obviously Pep signed his new extension recently? Do you think
Yeah,
he'll see that out, or do you think he'll get sacked before the end of the season?
it's quite surreal how he announces this, and then like literally after he announces it, they go on this massive loss of games. I know. I think he will stick it out, but maybe at the moment he's thinking, "What have I done?" Maybe it was his best to leave. Maybe he might actually, maybe he might change his mind. He might, you know what? I'm not the right man anymore. To lead the club, I don't know, but um, I don't think he will. I think he will keep. I think he will. However he's got left, I think he will see it out. Um, and try and build this new Man City team, which for me is so badly needed. So yeah, but yeah, that's my match from the weekend. Quite a crazy game. So we'll move on now to the Scottish Premier League results. So we'll start. So on Saturday, the 14th of December, the results finished: Hibs 3, Ross County 1, Motherwell 4, Dundee United 3, St Johnstone 2, St Mirren 3. And then on Sunday, the 15th of December, we had one match which finished Kilmarnock 1, Hearts 0. So, Pearse, which match from this weekend's Scottish Premier League matches stand out to you the most?
For me, it's got to be the Motherwell 4, Dundee United 3. It was goals galore. It was a goal fest. It was a bit of everything. Penalty, you had late drama in terms of goals, and just the calibre finish is really good as well. Um, and the fact is that now Stuart Kettlewell is just continuous remarkable form that Motherwell are on, and have now overtaken Dundee United into fourth position. Um, and I think if they just keep the form up at the moment, I don't see why they can't cement that fourth place coming in the season. Obviously, Lennon Miller's a big part of that as well, young talent. But just the balance they've got in terms of that you don't usually concede like goals both Dundee and Motherwell, but this game was just a goal fest. It was just both sides just attacking and going for it, and it's what you love to see in football, and especially Scottish football, because for me this is a brilliant advert for Scottish football. Two sides really competitive, and like you say, you look at Mother's from this season. They've only drawn one game this season, but they've lost 7 and won 8, which I think is a testament that the fact is most games there it's like last minute winners or last minute losers. It's just very competitive for Motherwell this season. I think Stuart Kettlewell deserves enormous credit for how he's performed this season. And yeah, for me, that was a standout fixture.
Yeah, that's my one as well. Crazy game. Dundee United going into that match but in good form. Kind of right up there in the table. Sam is it Sam Dolby? He got 2 goals in the match. He's now the top scorer in the league. He's on loan from Wrexham, so they seem to have found a good player there. And there's a couple of goals in the Motherwell striker. Should I attempt to say his name? I'll go for it.
What do you go?
Stamat Stamete Lopoulos.
Good
He got
effort.
2 goals.
Good effort.
He got 2 goals. So um, yeah, so no, it was a really good match. Obviously, lots of goals, and I agree with what you said there about Stuart Kettlewell. I mean, he was under a wee bit of pressure going into this match, but I mean, what a start they've had! They've had a good start to the season. He's doing a really good, solid job there. Um, Same with Dundee United, to be fair. They're going well in the league after just coming back up. So yeah, that was my standout match on the weekend. Worth mentioning as well, St Johnstone St Mirren, which finished 3-2 at St Mirren. In the 81st minute, St Johnstone were 2-1 up in that match. Then in the 88th minute, St Mirren scored, and then they scored a last minute penalty to win that 3-2. So, that was a great ending to that match. But yeah, that was my standout match. Motherwell 4, Dundee United 3. And then second on Scottish football, it's probably the big match of the weekend in the country, which was the League Cup final against Celtic versus Rangers. So the match finished after extra time, 3-3, and then Celtic went on to win on penalties 5-4, which meant that Celtic were crowned champions of the Scottish League Cup. It was an absolutely amazing match, in my opinion, Pearse. But we'll start off with you. What was your thoughts overall on the match?
Well, I couldn't believe what I was seeing in terms of the way that Rangers approached the match. I thought they were superb in terms of their high press. They allowed Celtic to pass the ball around between the centre halves, and then when it got to the halfway line, they triggered that press and they caused Celtic all sort of problems. I thought Celtic in the first half were very sloppy in terms of possession, too slow in the build up. They couldn't really break through Rangers' midfield to defence, didn't really create many chances. And then in the opposite, the flip side for Rangers, I thought they set up brilliantly. They caused Celtic so many problems. And you've seen them going long a lot of times, trying to go over the centre halves and spring pace in behind. And it ultimately worked. A massive mistake in the first half by Greg Taylor. And then he was punished by obviously by Jamie in the rebound after a terrific Casper Schmeichel save. And then you're thinking Celtic really need to come out the blocks in the second half. And for me, Rangers should have went 2-0 up in the first right at the start of the second half. They had a 4-on-1 situation, Greg Taylor getting caught in the ball. And then Carter Vickers, who I thought for me was colossal, I thought he was one of Celtic's best performers on the day. Along with him and Daizan Maeda and Kasper Schmeichel, I thought they were the three kind of standing players for Celtic. Considering I thought Celtic played poorly apart from that, but it is like the sign of champions. They seem somehow managed to get a victory. And this game was turned on its head by Greg Taylor's deflected goal, and then obviously Daizan Maeda, who just never stops running, scores a terrific goal. It was anticipation. I thought it was terrific all afternoon. And then you're thinking Rangers get the equaliser Diamande, and you're like, this game is unbelievable. And then you think Nicholas Kuhn has won it right at the end, 87th minute, and then 21 seconds from kickoff, Rangers get an equaliser through Danilo. But then obviously that was like the drama. That was the last drama, to be honest, because a lot of the players were dead on their feet. Both players gave everything to this game, and I thought like the extra time was like a dead rubber. It was just players just kind of pulling up with cramp and stoppages in play. There wasn't really any chances for either side, and I think both teams wanted penalties because I don't think they wanted to lose the match itself. And then got to penalties, which is a lottery, and Celtic just scored all the penalties, and Ridvan Yilmaz had to be the man that kind of was the villain of the story. I thought it was a terrific Casper Schmeichel save, but I think there's got to be some question marks from Rangers in terms of why Cyril Dessers didn't take a penalty, considering he's usually he's a striker, and he is obviously he was on the park at the time, so I think there were question marks with that. But I thought Celtic deserved it because obviously they're clinical on their penalties, and in key moments they performed well. But I thought Rangers surprised a lot of people. I think they surprised a lot of the fans and neutrals alike that how well they performed against Celtic. And another day they could have won the game. But for me, 6 goals, extra time penalties, I thought was a terrific advert for Scottish football. And for me, that was probably the most competitive Old Firm game / Glasgow Derby match we've seen in a long time, because there's too many times where Rangers in recent seasons or recent games that they've just not competed. They've went behind, and They just kind of collapsed, or they've just not got that mental strength. But I thought they were superb. And regardless if they get defeated in the final, I think Philippe Clement can take some pride in terms of his team's performance, that they can maybe kind of push on and overtake Aberdeen in second position this season, who have faltered in recent weeks. But for me, what a game it was, and I was glad I watched it. For me, it was nearly 4 a.m. until the game finished. But worth staying up for. It was a terrific game of football, and I'm glad I got to watch it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you said. It's literally everything I wanted in a final. To be fair, goals, extra time, penalties. It's exactly what you want in a football cup final. It was a great match. It really was. Probably one of the best finals I've watched in a long time. It was just so entertaining. You know, obviously Rangers came into this match with good confidence after they got a good draw against Tottenham last Thursday. So I knew this would be no easy task for Celtic, and it proved to be the case in the first half. I thought Rangers played really well in the first half, especially Celtic didn't. I felt Celtic were really sloppy on the ball, weren't really penetrating enough. There was no real attacking threat, whereas Rangers were set up really well and were doing really well at hitting Celtic on the counter attack, and then they got a goal through Greg Taylor's mistake, as you said. You know, kind of pinching the ball off Celtic, which they were doing really well. Nickman hit a shot, saved, and then it was rebounded in from Bayrami. So Rangers were going in 1-0 at half time. And then second half, there was a moment at 1-0 to Rangers when I think Rangers went through on goal, and it was a 4v1. And I think it was Igman. All he had to do was kind of slot it across the goal. And I think it was Hadji was there for a tap in, but Carter Vickers intercepted it. So that was a big moment in the match, because like a few minutes later, Celtic got back into the game. And then from there, I think it was after the Celtic's first goal, it just went mental. Celtic went 2-1 up from Maeda, and then Rangers kind of fought back well. They got back into the game. Nicholas Cooden then scored in the last couple of minutes of the match. You're thinking, oh, that's it. Celtic have won it. And then Rangers again came back into the match like literally a minute later through Daniel's header. So it was a really good fight back each time from Rangers. And then extra time wasn't really interesting, as you said. It was both teams just didn't really have anything in the tank anymore. And then going into penalties, to be fair, I don't know why, I just fancied Celtic, to be fair. I just find they, they've been in that situation before. I just felt they had more technical, better players, more penalty takers that I felt were more that I felt more confident that I think they'd score more than Rangers players. When I saw Yilmaz stepping up, I just had a feeling that he wasn't going to score. He didn't look confident when I saw him stepping up. So I had a weird feeling that he wasn't going to score. He didn't, and then Maeda stepped up with the winning penalty. He did say after that match that it was a miss hit. I think I will believe him, because it did look a bit odd the way he hit it. But anyway, Celtic, they won the cup. As you said, a fantastic match. Really enjoyed watching it. And for Rangers, they'll go after that. They'll obviously be disappointed that they lost, but it's probably the first time in a good while that I now kind of starting to see a bit of a direction from Rangers. I'm beginning to see actually a team that's starting to gel. I'm beginning to quite like their attacking players, the likes of Igman and Bayrami and Hadji, I think. And Cherny as well. It's quite a good attacking force. So they seem to be doing well together. And they've got a good midfield pairing with Diomande and Raskin. So it's starting to look a bit better for Rangers. They'll be disappointed, obviously, with the defeat. But yeah, congratulations to Celtic. They're the League Cup winners. And yeah, now it's back into league action. And hopefully we get to see much more excitement in the Scottish Premier League. So we'll now move on to lastly, last bit of the show. We'll talk about Scotland's FIFA World Cup qualifying group. So that was announced last week. So obviously with the World Cup in 2026 in the United States and Mexico. So we now know what our group is for the qualifying for that World Cup. So I'll just read it out. So we will either be playing Portugal or Denmark. So they two will play in a playoff in March. And then whoever wins, that team will be in this group. So Portugal or Denmark. Then we've got Greece, and lastly we've got Belarus. So it's quite a small group. Usually World Cup qualified groups have got a few more teams than that, but it seems it's a bit different this year. There's not as many teams in this World Cup qualifying group. But what's your thoughts on it, Pearse?
I think it's a pretty positive group. I think we can pretty much qualify from that. Greece and Belarus, I think, regardless, without disrespecting those nations, I think Scotland have a squad strong enough. If we've got a full strength 11, I don't see us losing those games. And the way we finished the Nations League, I thought it was very positive. Got two terrific results, two great wins, and wins breed confidence. I think Scotland need to continue that and carry us on to this World Cup qualifying campaign, because that is what we want. We want Scotland to qualify for a major tournament again, but a World Cup which we haven't qualified since '98. So if we can get ourselves on that plane to the USA and Mexico, it'd be tremendous. And in terms of Denmark or Portugal, it doesn't matter which side we play, because both will be very tough games against both sides that are very high caliber nations. And obviously played Portugal recently, so we know what it requires to beat or to get a result off of Portugal, because they've got quality throughout the sides. But we need to be concentrating for 90 minutes plus and defend really well. Same with Denmark. But in terms of that group, I'm very positive for that. I think it's a very good group. Greece, Belarus, I think we've got a very good chance of beating both those sides. And then, just regardless of the day, I think Portugal, Denmark, you have to beat your maximum all over the park to get a result, because it'll be a very tough task. But no, very positive, and I think Scotland have got a major opportunity to qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, it's a good chance. I agree. It's different. It's more tricky to qualify for the World Cup now, because you need to finish first to qualify, and then if it's second, then you need to go through a playoff. So it's not as if it's like the Euros, where it's two teams automatically qualify. So, but seeing the group, I think Scotland are more capable. I think Belarus, Scotland should comfortably beat them both home and away. I mean, that'll be away. It'll be tough going away to that. Away to play Belarus. So they should comfortably beat them. Greece, I actually disagree a wee bit. They're actually quite a good team, to be fair. You know, only a couple of months ago we saw them going to Wembley and they beat England 3-1. So they've actually got some good players in there. I think Greece away will be tough. But again, I do think Scotland, with the way they are now, with how much we've grown in the last few years, I do think they're more than capable of beating Greece. And then Portugal or Denmark. For me, I really hope Denmark win that. I don't think they will. But two teams but Scotland have managed to compete with really well over the last couple of years. We beat Denmark a couple of years ago in the Euro qualifying group, and we got a draw against Portugal a few months ago. So we're showing that we can compete with these two teams. So yeah, I'm fairly optimistic. It's quite a short group. But we all know with these qualifying groups that you need to get off to a good start. You need to start winning straight away. You can't get off to a slow start, because if you get off to a slow start, then you're going to be it's not going to end well, really. But I'm really hoping Scotland do well in this qualifying group, because I'd love to see Scotland in the World Cup in America. I think it'd be amazing.
Well, Tom,
Really would.
you need to get off to a good start. The first game's either against Denmark or Portugal, and the last game's against Denmark or Portugal. So could they get off to a tough start then, could it?
Well, hopefully the last game we've already qualified.
Aye, hopefully.
But if we do get the World Cup, then Football Chuggu Podcast in America. Empire State Building. So that's the end of the podcast. So thank you everyone listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.